Hey everyone, in this app hack we're going to be talking about how you can take your users and make them into something a little more, and that's fans. Now the average user is pretty neutral. They most likely probably don't hate your guts, but don't expect a Christmas card or anything from them anytime soon. If you and your app continue to provide value for them, they'll keep you around. If it doesn't, then they move on. It's all pretty cut and dry really. That being said, there's a small percentage of your users that really like what you've been doing. Your app's probably changed their life for the better in some way, and you've been pretty awesome when they contacted you. Whatever it is, they're interested in your company and its story, and more importantly, they believe in you and they want you to succeed. And when it comes to lending you a hand by telling people they know about your app, they aren't afraid to help out. These are your fans. So how can you build your fan base? Everyone talks about user acquisition all the time, but personally I prefer fan acquisition. Users can get kind of boring sometimes. It would be a lot nicer to have a few more people around cheering you on. Let's talk about some things you can do to build loyalty and create more of your users into fans. First of all, show them that you care. If you want people to care about you, you've got to make them see that you care about them first. Let's talk about Procreate for a minute. They recently just won an Apple Design Award at the Developers Conference for iOS 7. Now, if you're a developer, this is a pretty big deal. These awards are pretty prestigious. Procreate's a great app, but what the developers did after that is pretty amazing to me. And that is that as a way of saying thanks to their users and all the people who supported them, they completely removed their in-app purchases in the next update and they made all the content available for free. Now Procreate, they had a fantastic in-app purchase store. It was incredibly well designed. They won a design award after all. And it really was an excellent mechanism from within their app for bringing additional revenue to them. Now what they did might not seem like the most business savvy idea, but it was huge because it showed people that they cared about them. They put their users before their profits, which is not something you see a lot of these days. Now I'm not saying that you should go and dump all your in-app purchases next time you update, but don't be afraid to show people that you care about them. Go the extra mile or do something that exceeds their normal expectations of you. If they feel like you care about them as users, they will care about you as a company. Now a really good way to turn your users into fans is to be relatable. They need to be able to relate to you and find connections. To do this, they need to know your story. They need to be able to see what you're up to and follow your activities. So a large part of this app hack is going to be on making it easy for them to see what you're doing. This is a great way to start finding some common ground with your users. For this app hack, what you should do is implement some kind of newsfeed or some way for you to share with your users in the app what you've been doing. Now let's discuss a couple of options. If you got a blog, put it somewhere in the app where they can find it. Kind of what you see what Bamboo Paper's done here. If they're using your app and if they use it a lot, then they're going to be interested in reading on your latest thoughts and developments in the app. A blog is a great way to go. Also, another thing that you can be doing is display feeds of your Facebook and Twitter activity. In fact, this is sometimes a little easier to do than a blog because a Facebook post or a 120 character tweet, it's a lot quicker to come up with and a lot quicker to write than a blog post. And this can also be very, very beneficial because there's a good chance that people will follow you through these channels if they find you to be interesting. Let's talk about your Facebook and Twitter pages for just a minute here, and we're going to discuss some of the best practices for handling them because a lot of the content you provide there is going to be very important in making your users into fans. First of all, provide meaningful content to them. Don't just let your Facebook and Twitter channels become a meaningless stream of marketing posts or you're going to turn people off to you pretty quickly. Talk about your app, how the updates are going, share latest news and developments from the tech world. Make sure your content's more than just a pitch for your products. Make sure to be yourself, with good taste of course. Don't be afraid to let people see that you're a human being too. A good sense of humor can go a long way, so share challenges you face as a company, things like that. If you're a little guy in the App Store, don't be afraid to let people know. People tend to root for the underdog. Now that being said, make sure that you remain professional at all times. Don't let your personal life and work intermingle too much. Remember, there's a place and a time to talk about the latest video game you're playing, and there's also a place and a time to talk about your app company. So stay focused and professional and keep the context on your company. Now there's two things that are going to isolate and turn people against you faster than anything else, and that's politics and religion. In your Facebook and Twitter feeds, avoid these two issues as well as anything else that might be controversial in the news at the time. Just don't go there with politics. No matter how neutral you try and be, you're going to make someone mad. And remember, you're here to sell apps, not to convert people to your religion or promote atheism. So again, stay professional and avoid things that are going to lead to controversy. Finally, never lash out. Customers can be a real pain sometimes, especially when they take to the airwaves, and you might be tempted to really hand it to them. You probably could too, but don't. Trust me, it looks incredibly unprofessional, it stokes the flames, and it generally causes more harm than good. You want to make fans, not mortal enemies. So posting when you're angry or upset is usually not a good idea. Take some time to calm down and remain professional, tasteful, and polite. You'll end up looking like the bigger man for it. Let's go back to talking about how to make fans out of your users. One very helpful tip is to always stay consistent to your brand. Don't do things that misrepresent who you are or what your company is about. If your company has a standard of excellence, hold yourself to it. Show your users that you're committed to making a good product and that you're a great company. If you stick to that, they'll see it too. Be a craftsman. Do the absolute best you can and take pride in your work. Show people that you love what you do. If you've never seen any of the Tapbot apps, I recommend you at least download a couple of them and look them over. The developers of these apps, they go a long ways in creating a brand that looks incredible. Their attention to detail in the apps show they really care about what they make and they love what they're doing. So try and do the same in your own apps. When something is done really well, people just can't help but admire it. Another really effective way to make fans is to make your users feel important or like they're part of an exclusive club. Now, a great way to do this is using Easter eggs. When I say Easter egg, I mean those little gems or secrets that you put somewhere in your app, you put them somewhere in your app and wait for people to find them. If you want an example of an Easter egg, try going to google.com and typing askew in the search bar. Now, people love Easter egg and secrets. When they find them, they usually feel exclusive and cool and they want to show their friends. So in your own apps, find little ways or secrets that you can put in there to make your users feel like they're in an exclusive club, basically. Also, think of ways to make their lives easier, or make whatever task that your app performs, accomplish it more efficiently. A reason people like iPhones so much is because they do a lot of things incredibly well. If Apple didn't bother perfecting the user experience, their commercials would be a lot less effective. This really just goes back into making a great product. And whatever you do, strive for excellence, and people will care about your product. Now, there's a very interesting phenomenon in human psychology, and it's that if you ask someone for help or for a favor and they do it, they're going to end up liking you more. It's actually called the Ben Franklin effect, because apparently he was the one that discovered it in his dealings with some people, and he found out basically that a personal request for a favor increases likability. This interesting little facet of human behavior, it's pretty well documented, and it's been pretty studied, and it works. So try the same thing in your apps. Don't be afraid to ask your users to do something for you, like rate your app or tell their friends about it. Now, there's a big gotcha to this, and that's to make sure that whatever you're asking them to do, make sure that you take the time to really sound like you're asking them personally. To your user, it should sound like you're standing there and you're standing there personally and asking them for a favor. If your request, if it seems canned or impersonal, it's actually going to decrease likability for you. Also, if they do something for you, make sure you take the time to thank them or make them feel good about doing it. Our last tip here really ties into most of what we've already discussed, and that's to be a human being. Don't be afraid to add the human touch to what you do. Show people that you're another human being. If all people will ever get from you is canned responses, stiffly worded emails, and no personalization or indications that you're not a robot, chances are they're going to find it pretty hard to relate to your company. But once they see that you have a face and that you're another person just like them, you stop being a soulless corporation in their minds, and the door opens for them to start relating to you. And of course, as a bonus tip, always remember to be tasteful, professional, and polite in your interactions with your users. These little things that we've talked about here are going to go a long way toward helping you make more fans out of your users. Remember, even a few people who become the proselytes for your app can make a huge difference. So when you're dealing with your users, show them that you care. Have a section in your app where they can see your company's activity or story. Be consistent with your brand. Show them that you love what you do. Be a craftsman. Make them feel important. Make their lives better. Ask them for help or for a favor. Show them that you're a human being. And of course, be professional and be polite. As always, if you have any questions or comments, be sure to give us a shout out in the comment section for this lecture.